Good afternoon and welcome to the Navigating Fatherhood program on this EQ Lunch and Learn series. On this episode of the Lunch and Learn, we'll be looking at mental health challenges men face with a special focus on those arising from fatherhood. We'll explore the psychological impact of being or becoming a father, the stress of balancing various life roles, and the journey of emotional well-being for new dads. Participants will gain an insight into breaking societal stigmas, practical strategies for maintaining mental health, and available resources and support networks. During this session, we would also like you, our audience, to send out your shout outs to the remarkable men in your life and appreciating the efforts that they put in your lives. On this episode, our goals are to understand the impact of fatherhood on mental health, including psychological effects of transitioning to fatherhood, balancing work, family, and personal well-being. Share practical tips for managing stress, anxiety, the importance of self-care, and support networks. Explore available mental health resources for men and how employers and communities can support men's mental health. So today I have two amazing guests with me today who are going to help us navigate through this topic. Unfortunately, one of the guests was unable to make it as we had put on the posters, but we'll still have the conversation. And I would like to introduce the two amazing guests that I have today on the Lunch and Learn. So we start with Dr. Andronik Chebsi. And Dr. Chebsi is a highly motivated individual with a profound passion for transforming the healthcare landscape through education, communication, and dedicated medical practice. In various capacities, he has contributed significantly to the delivery of quality healthcare services, leadership, and innovative ideas. His journey extends beyond clinical practice. He works as a part-time chief operations officer at Tawi Health, a health technology startup company based in Kenya that aims to optimize healthcare delivery through technology to achieve great patient experience, interdepartmental collaboration, quality management, secure healthcare billing, and data-driven decision making. Furthermore, he loves to share ideas through writing and training, and he has written 2 books and holds trainings for high school and college students as well as corporates. To find out more about Andronik, you can follow him on LinkedIn. And I believe we'll be able to share that as we continue on this Lunch and Learn session. You can be able to see that on your screen right now. So our next guest is Ferdinand Ochieng. And Ferdinand is a results-driven professional with a progressive career in the field of finance and project management, with relevant working experience as a project manager, financial and grants professional. Currently, Ferdinand works for Teach for Kenya, a non-governmental organization whose main aim is advancing sustainable development goal 4 on quality education for all by working to bridge the gap in education, inequality, and to ensure that every Kenyan child receives their right to a decent education regardless of their socio-economic background. So to learn more about Ferdinand, we'll also be sharing his LinkedIn link on the screen so that you can be able to reach out to him. So welcome, gentlemen, to the show. Welcome, Ferdinand, and welcome, Andronik. So I'm hoping we've not lost Andronik. But I'll start with you, Ferdinand, with the first question. What are the most common mental health issues faced by men today, and how do societal expectations and stigmas impact men's willingness to seek for mental health issues?
Thank you so much, Wycliffe. Unfortunately, I know this call was supposed to happen last week, but due to unforeseen circumstances in our country, we were not able to host it, and we are privileged hosting it today. So it's a pleasure to be in this forum today. And just to delve into the question that you have asked today, some of the mental issues that are being affected by men is depression, and some of the men that we view in our society are depressed because of the stress or family issues that they are currently undergoing into their lives, that they're not able to navigate in one way or the other. And the second bit of the question was asking about, what was the other bit of the question? Oh, societal. Oh, you're muted.
The societal stigmas that men experience when addressing mental health issues. So how do societal expectations and pressures impact on fathers' mental health?
Yeah, the society actually portrays men to be alpha, and we are not. I think while we were growing up as young children, we were taught that men are not supposed to cry. But I think over time that has really changed. Like, men are also like human beings, like any other person, and we also have like feelings, and we also have things that we undergo in our personal or even in our public life. So the society has put so much pressure on men, so that they are not able to like express themselves willingly. They're not able to talk into the issues that they're going through in their mental spaces. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, and I guess, like we're saying, probably how doesn't this impact men's ability to sort of seek help when it comes to mental health issues? Because I don't know how many men are willing to actually say that I would want to seek support for mental health issues that I am facing. While we're holding on that thought, I think Andronic, I believe, is back on the screen.
Yes,
And
I am.
great. So, and it's really just about setting the scene. And the first question that we had is how do societal expectations and pressures on fathers impact their mental health, and even sort of their willingness to seek support on mental health issues? Andronic, I think maybe you're on mute.
All right. You can hear me?
Yes.
All right. I think I'm having an issue a bit with my, is it device or internet? But if you can't hear me, just alert me. But just to add on to what my colleague has said, I think there's just a lot that is happening. First of all, let me give a disclaimer that I am not yet already a father, but soon to be. But I've played a father figure to my siblings and a few people here and there. The one that we call second parent. Yeah, but also keenly observing the interactions that I had with my father, and also being in the health space, having interacted with many people who are parents at the hospital. I think there are a lot of things that are happening that traditionally, and also with the changing norms in our current society. So traditionally, we have a father who was the main breadwinner, and at the same time, this father is expected to have certain characteristics that my colleague has said, that you're not supposed to cry, for example. So a sort of stoicism, kind of, that you're going through a difficult time, but again, you cannot let those difficult times take you down. You cannot express them public, lest you affect your family, because your family needs to see you strong all the time, in no matter what you're going through. So traditionally, I think the breadwinner challenge and the stoicism part is kind of a big part, because any man that is going through a difficult time and breaks the rule of sharing out is somehow seen as less of a man, than the one that confines all his problems to himself. So I think traditional, that's what I'll say. In the changing society, where we are encouraged more as men to open up, yes, opening up is good, but you realize that again, the expectation for you to open up is not being received well. If a man right now goes online and shares that, I am going through a difficult time, you can be sure that more than 70% of the comments are not going to support this man's sharing of the difficult times. It's going to be,
Yeah.
bashing and telling you what kind of man is this, man up, handle your issues, and so on. So I think the the approach of sharing also has got some kind of limitations. And then on the breadwinner also, where now both men and women in a marriage are able to provide, the man again is faced with a new challenge of meeting a higher level of expectations as a husband, as a father. So the breadwinner has been lessened, but the expectations again is higher on the man. And all these things can have tremendous implications on a man's mental health.
Yeah, great. I think just for purposes of also sharing, I'm a father. At least have been a father for the last close to 15 years. So I have a 15-year-old daughter, almost 15 years old, one who's almost 12, and a son who's 8. So I think as we navigate through this conversation, I can be able to also chime in a little bit and sort of give a little bit of experience in in fatherhood and the issues that come through fatherhood. So I think that I'll take this question and give it to Ferdinand. And let me just ask, why is it important to encourage open conversations about men's health? And can you share a personal story or an example of how discussing mental health has made a difference?
Thank you so much. I think encouraging men to have open conversations help relieve a lot of stress within themselves, and just expressing themselves in a manner that they feel that they're comfortable. And maybe opening conversations can be had through mentors, friends, or family. For instance, I have friends who have undergone through divorce. I have one who never had a very wild breakup with the wife, but 17 years later, he was not able to marry or look for any other lady. That this is because maybe he was not able to express himself, or he didn't go for a mental wellness checkup, or even having sessions with friends. And also have a colleague who, after the breakup, went for the mental sessions, and now is really doing much better in terms of his mental state. So I feel like opening up to colleagues, to mentors, to family really goes a long way in improving one's well-being, and also just ensuring that in the right state of the mind.
Great, thanks for sharing that and seeing the impact that it has actually had and the difference that it has made where people were able to seek for help versus where someone did not necessarily seek for help. So Andronik, I have a question for you in terms of what are the psychological effects experienced during the transition into fatherhood, and how can new fathers effectively balance the demands of work, family, and personal well-being? I know you've talked about interacting with a number of fathers and even at your workplace, and how do you see those demands? How are they balancing work, family, personal well-being as individuals?
Thank you so much. Now, I sit at the clinic, and many times when I receive parents, let me start with the first time parents. You just got married, you're having your first kid, and what what I observe most of the time, that the distress on both parents is usually so magnified. But at this time, I usually see it more on the lady, first time mother, the distress, and especially the first, like, let's say 4 months, because that's when, the babies are doing everything and anything. And you just don't know yet what to do. Are they sick? Are they hungry? Are they just throwing a tantrum? You know, and commonly we have this thing called colic, which is very common in babies under 5 months old, and that is a simple thing but causes so much distress to parents. And so I see young parents really struggle with that. But on parents who are transitioning from first child to second, third, most of the time I will see that the woman is more composed. She is not worried that much because she has experienced this before and so on. Many times I will see that when you come to the clinic, the man is the one that is mostly irritable. He looks more distressed, especially if um, the man has brought the child to hospital himself without the wife being present. Maybe the wife is held up at work, or something happened and he had to rush into the hospital themselves. Most of the time, the man looks a bit more distressed, and I think it's explainable because um, maybe most of the time, as a man, you are still working as your wife is taking care of your child. So you might not really have much details on how to take care of this 3 month old. The baby has passed poop. What do I do? I mean, you just changed poop, the diaper 1 hour ago. Again, there is another one. The baby is crying. I've just fed the baby like 30 minutes ago. Now the baby is crying. What is happening? Is the baby still hungry? Is the baby sick? And all these things can have such tremendous mental challenge to this man. So I think that um, there's so much happening. So there's the distress part to the man. You want to be present to take care of your baby, and then there's work which you have to continue providing. So how do you balance then being able to provide as a man, which really gives the man a lot of satisfaction to be able to provide, but at the same time, as a man, you want to participate in raising your baby right from when they were born, all right? So there are these challenges, and I think maybe later we'll discuss about where now the issue of having paternity leave comes in, to be able to still help this man to be able to still earn and also be present to raise this
Yeah.
child. So there's a lot of psychological challenges that happen to men in transitioning, especially first time parents, which has got a lot of strain on them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Andronic, maybe just to we can touch a little bit on the paternity leave, but I think
Yeah.
one of the other psychological issues that I sort of see, and I would want to hear either Ferdinand's view or yourself, is that
Mm.
before the child comes, there is the issue of the father feeling that you're everything, you're loved and all that, and all of a sudden there's a shift of attention to someone being the priority apart from you
Mhm.
as a father. How do you then navigate that space? And I think also balancing work, because this is now where the paternity leave comes. And I think, and I really applaud the organizations that do have quite a long paternity leave, because it does help. Speaking from a personal experience, when I had my firstborn daughter, I had so many leave days that I was able to be allowed to take. I think I was actually at home for almost the entire duration of the maternity leave, and I can tell you it was a totally different experience from the other children who, of course, the other children I had more experience, but it was very comforting to know that even if the baby had colic or the baby cried the entire night and we did not sleep, I didn't have to go to work in the morning. So I think, so if you think about it, is that also a psychological thing? The feeling of aspect of someone has taken your place in a way.
Well,
Ferdinand, chime in.
I'll let Ferdinand to get into that first before I add.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. As first-time fathers, definitely you have to. Your space is definitely interfered with. Then there's also that fear that comes with the first, because you guys are used to being the two of you. Then there's this new bond that has just come into your lives. You don't know what to do. You are really afraid. You don't know, like now, Wycliffe was talking about where you change the diapers but the baby still crying, so there's a lot of anxiety. You don't know what to do, but at this point I think it's good to contact maybe those who have gone through the same process before, to get more insight on what to do, on maybe how to handle the situation, and also upload the organizations that maybe give the parental the leave days to enable you like handle your first child in the correct manner. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great, Andronic.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely something that happens. I was there's a clip I was watching on YouTube. It's a live show. It's not a movie. It's a live show in the US that a therapist brings couples for couple therapy, but it's live recorded and it's an actual thing. It's not a scripted. So one of the things that the man was saying, they have 3 children. The man was saying that he feels like a ghost in the house, like he's not noticed in the house. The wife is busy with cooking, taking care of talking to the 3 children, moving from one place to another. So he comes after work, he's there. Nobody seems to talk with him. The wife seems not to 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 listen to him even when it comes to conjugal rights, and so on and so forth. So I think I wanted to use that to say, like, it's something that really happens. And I think for the women, I think it happens that it's automatic. The mother's love takes over. That, you know what, my priority at the moment is this little baby of ours.
Naturally.
And I don't think it's like they automatically say, I will block the husband away. It's just that it happens here. This is, and it's so natural that they can't explain it themselves. And when you as a man start complaining, they're like, what are you saying? I'm taking care of the baby. You should be joining me in taking care of the baby. Yeah. So it's just something that happens. But I think what should happen is that I think the part of preparation and before even the baby comes and so on, the preparation part and anticipating what is going to happen and anticipating such things will happen, and being able to talk about it and plan on it is one of the things that I think that greatly helps couples on this. Yeah. I think in addition to that, the other thing that happens to fathers is that just as women experience postpartum depression is quite a huge thing for women. It has been shown that men also experience the same. Even if the man, you did not push out the baby, but um, men also experience postpartum depression because of the challenges that as a man you're also going to experience. Definitely, if you're living in the same house, the mood and the feelings of one person is going to radiate to another. The frustrations that one experiences is going to transfer to another person. So men also kind of experience the postpartum depression if the woman experiences it, or even if the woman does not experience postpartum depression. As a man, there is a tendency also that yourself might experience some uh, depression, postpartum depression. Yeah.
I guess very, very great points there in terms of the challenges that we face, the changes that are happening. And I think we need to also just sort of, from a point of advice, what do we look at as how we can help these new fathers sort of navigate and balance that? Because it's sort of like, I'm in the HR field and we're always talking about work-life balance, but now we know that's a fallacy because we talk more about work-life integration. How then can you integrate effectively between what's happening? And are there any tips? Is there anyone who would want to share, Ferdinand? How would you just sort of effectively balance that?
Maybe Andronic can go first, then I can add.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think, as I mentioned, I'm not yet a father,
Yes.
about to be. So, most of the things I might say, I just, let me use the word theory, but also from observation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've not yet been into the fire. I'm
Yeah. When
waiting
you're in
to
the
get
fire,
into
it
the.
slaps differently. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, the work-life balance and first-time fathers, there's no best way to really say it until you're there. But some things can help navigate the journey better. I think, one of the things I mentioned already is about preparation.
Yeah.
Preparation, and I think during, especially what we call the third trimester, the last 3 months of the pregnancy, where now you anticipating this is when the baby is going to come. We are going to have the baby in such and such hospital. This is our doctor, and so on. And that's part of the preparation. But I don't know if anybody really takes time to prepare the both parents psychologically what is about to come. And I think that part of the thing that as individual, as men, um, that we may want to start incorporating in that journey of supporting the ladies in the pregnancy is being preparing ourselves as well. And that involves psychological preparation, that this is what you're going to expect, and this we might get from interacting with other fathers that have already gone ahead. For example, me, yes, I'm a doctor, I know these things, but I will still find somebody who is not even a doctor but is already a father, and they will tell me the practical part of it, because I might know but I've not experienced it. So having maybe one or two men that who is in our inner cycle, who we can talk, first time father, how did you navigate it, so on and so on, which is part of the preparation. Then also the other preparation is the money part. As we said, paternity leave, you want to be present right from when your baby is born to the first few months of seeing them, opening their eyes, to just crying, to start uttering a few sounds there, and to the first word. You want to be there. But again, you have to provide. So I think part of preparation is psychological preparation, then financial preparation. So you know that you want to be around this baby maybe for the first 2 months. Are you able to be off work but still able to meet the obligations of provision in those first 2 months? And you know yourself what systems you can set in place to be able to allow you to achieve that. And then and these preparations can happen in different forums, I think, which we'll talk about them later.
Okay. Great. Ferdinand, do you want to share out of experience?
Yeah, maybe the other ways that maybe I will add about what Adonik has said is maybe sharing roles within the home, and also just knowing how to distinguish between a home and office. Because I've seen most people say they're on parental leave, on paternity leave, but actually they're actually working. So knowing how to distinguish this when you're a new parent, I think it's very key. Thank you.
Okay, great. So let's move on to another set of questions as we continue with this conversation on how to navigate fatherhood. Ferdinand, how can employers and community organizations support the mental health of fathers? And what are some of the initiatives that your organization or organizations that you know of have taken to sort of help in this transition?
Uh, Thank you so much. I think the ways of organization supporting mental health in organization is by sensitizing the staff, more so on the creating awareness through various forums. Because nowadays there are so many organizations that really advocate for mental health, And there's a day that has already been set for Mental Health Day. So I think that is a big step towards addressing the mental issues. Then the other thing that organizations, we have done more so for our staff this year, is like giving them a day off to just reflect on their mental health and well-being.
Okay, great. Any Andronic, would you like to add something on that, on how you've seen organizations, especially in the space that you are in, sort of supporting fathers? Well, I'll take that question again. Andronic, we've just looked at some of the things that organizations are doing to support in terms of setting aside a day, getting providers who can come and support you on discussions around mental health. But what else, if I would ask Dr. Andronic, in your space, what mental health resources are available specifically for men and fathers, and how can they be sort of part of those either support groups that are there? Do we have this in existence? I know there's always discussions of what do you call is it the doula, or the lady who helps someone transition through the pregnancy, but how do men then get supported?
Yeah, I think especially in the African context, the part of preparing men also for parenthood has not really been embraced that much. But I think in the Western countries, just as there are parents classes for women who are in their last stages of pregnancy towards delivery, and also in the first few months of having received this baby, there are very clear structures that hospitals especially and other specialized institutions that have set aside classes for women who are about to deliver, and those maybe their babies are up to about 3 months, that they have maybe daily sessions that they go and they get trained, they share their experiences and exchange ideas and tips. I think that's happening more rampant for the ladies, but for men, maybe there is need to start embracing that first time fathers, and maybe any father that needs this, we can have forums that are preparing men in the hospitals as they await to receive this baby, and also in the first few months on how to. So I think I know a few, maybe 1 or 2 hospitals in Nairobi that is doing that, but not so much. It's not, again, so structured. So that is a gap that needs to be embraced. I think also at individual level as a man, the part I emphasized a lot is about preparation. So we can prepare by reaching out for a specific friend. Let's say, like, for example, Sora, I reach out to you. I tell you, I am going to be a father. I need you to hold my hand in this period. Yeah. And then also personal preparation in terms of there's a lot of materials online. There are maybe parental books that we can utilize just to keep ourselves informed. Maybe I can watch a few YouTubes on how I can be changing diapers. It is equipping. One of the things that make us men to feel not sufficient is when, I think, Sora and Ferdinand, you can agree, when you feel you are not able to. Part of the pride of a man is knowing that you can do something, that you are capable, and that the people around you trust in your capability to do things. People around us feel like we are not, they are, superhumans. It challenges our ego. So I think when it comes to this, part of how we can overcome this is actually pushing ourselves to be in that space of being able, having the relevant skills, and abilities. For example, a simple thing like changing a diaper. I can watch a YouTube video on how to change a diaper, um, or just knowing when a 2-month-old baby of mine cries, what does it mean? Just having that know-how, what does it mean? Does it mean the baby is hungry? Does it mean they have just pooped and the urine is irritating them? Does it mean they are trying to find sleep, and so on and so forth? So being able to equip ourselves from different sources, be it books, videos, and so on, can really transform our experiences, especially as first-time fathers.
Yeah. Great.
And lastly, professional help. Sorry.
Yes, yes.
Professional help, yes. It is not really widely embraced in Africa, that as a man, I can go to see, let's say, a psychologist and tell them I am going through a difficult time as a first-time father. Not well embraced. But if we can start embracing that, of course, that will be private and it will be tailored to your needs as an individual. Yeah.
Great. I think if I look at, yes, we've talked a lot about first-time fathers and, having the younger children. But like I did mention, I'm a father to a teenager, father to, preteen, getting into teenagehood, and a young man. And there's a lot of, things that happen when these children are transitioning through the various stages in life. And I think the next question, and I can push this to Ferdinand, is what are the practical tips that you can, that fathers can have to sort of manage stress and anxiety as these children are growing, as you're doing your responsibilities and you need to be there as a father. What are some of the practical tips that fathers can incorporate? And we talk a lot about self-care nowadays, and how do you put that into your daily routines? I'll probably just say, sometimes for me, what I do is at the end of the day, when I get into the house, I would say hello to the kids, but then I will take some time to go and just sit in my room and just be quiet and spend some time to just either catch up on something that I'd not done during the day, see what's happening, and sometimes even just sit in silence and say, you know what, it's been a long day. And then after that, in another 20 minutes to 1 hour, I can now emerge and have conversations with them, or open up my space for them to just come in and have conversations with me. So that's one of the things that I would say that I practically do, sort of I can be able to manage stress. And sometimes I remember one time when I had this really rough day, and then on the road everything was just crazy, road rage, including up to the gate. And I had to, sort of breathe in and breathe out and say, when you're getting into that door, do not transfer this stress into these children. Hug them like, you've missed them for the entire day. But I was so conscious about it. And I said, take a minute or two before I left the car. And when I got upstairs, I was like, you know what? Hug these children and be, it's a good day. So Ferdinand, give us some tips around that.
Thank you so much. I think for me, what has worked for me over the past years is going to the gym. And I think when I go and lift those heavy metals, I feel so relieved. And also the other aspect that I've also seen working is just having like a leisure walk in the evening. Because when you come back, you are really tired and you are sweaty. All you want is to rest, eat, and sleep. Then the other thing that I'm also trying to adopt is like journaling, where you just write your thoughts, everything on paper, and just keep it as a journal. I think those are the three practical aspects that I've seen making a difference in my life.
Okay, great. Any tips, Doc, in terms of how we can manage our stress and anxiety as fathers?
I think you guys have mentioned most, but I will just emphasize that, as you rightly said, that it's not work life. It's about
the integration.
What is the right word? Integration. Yes, it's about integration, because you can. Yeah. So I think just like in the business world, there is the emphasis on having systems, right? So I think that having personal systems is also important. And by this I mean, like, as you yourself, you said you have a system that you know when you are about to enter the house after work, there is a way you follow. Take some time to calm down and so on. And I think we can extend this into like having a system for your entire week, so that you know, and setting systems that you've set times. So get in the house, spend time with my family, maybe dinner, so on and so on. Um, when the kids go to sleep, for example, then I have to take my time also to reflect, meditate, or pray, or read the Bible, or do something personal. Then go to sleep. In the morning, you have a system that you know you go to exercise, jog, or something, and you go to work. So there's a certain kind of system that you're following. And I think, like I mentioned, though I'm not yet a biological father, but I played a father figure to my siblings, and it has an equal measure of mental health challenges. It's not easy,
Yeah.
but at some point I realized that it's creating an enemy figure between me and my siblings. So what did is I sat down and reflected, and I said, yes, I there's this I'm doing, but also you have to remember yourself. So I created a system. So one of the system is in agreement with what Ferdinand has said. I do gym, and if we had time, we will talk about how important physical exercise is to mental health. Actually, it is not so much emphasized, but physical exercise is so important, especially to men, to
Yeah.
men's mental health. And if you can incorporate physical exercise of any type, be it going to the gym, being going for a run, or just doing some aerobic exercises within the house, put it as a routine, maybe every day if you can, maybe twice a week or thrice a week, and you realize that it helps a lot in transforming the mental health state of a person, and especially to men. So I will say, like, just have a system as a father, because there's so much that you there's work, there's children, there's spouse, there are projects, and so on. So if you don't take care, you realize you forget completely about yourself. And allow me to say, Osoro, I had a
Yes.
client of mine, a patient in this case. So he came to see me for other issues, but on top of that, he just decided to share his what he's been experiencing mentally, and he was so stressed and so on. He was talking about his work, his personal business, his family, and he says he has forgotten about himself. And
Yeah.
what happened is he's not only stressed, but he's also gaining a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And when we talk about something like, you could exercise and so on, he tells me, Daktari, I have people to feed, I have people to take care of. I get to the point where I say, do you tell me that I'm going to exercise? I ask him in the weekend. No, weekend, I hang out with the boys. What do? You take alcohol, nyama choma, and so on, which I maybe we'll talk about coping mechanisms later, which again deteriorates a person's health. So, but if we can fix the system within our weekly schedule and say, yes, I have people, but I have to, because these people need you to be an optimum. They need you to be at your optimum mental health space for them even to feel the best of you. So again, if we let ourselves deteriorate again, the people that we are taking care of will not again experience the best of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. I think very great tips there, and we're almost coming to the point where we'll take a few questions if they're there from the audience. I know we are
Yeah.
live on YouTube. We're also live on LinkedIn, and happy to see if there are any questions that are coming in as we get to to round up, because we also want this session to be interactive. And I'll come back to you also, Doc, on what you've talked about the coping mechanisms. I do know that, yes, sometimes I think I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and I almost had the same type of conversation where I say, everything is about everyone else, but very little about myself, because you have a lot of work pressure, a lot of pressure around taking care of the children. For example, for me, in the last 1.5 years, I've been sort of solo parenting because my wife works out of the country. It becomes a lot of challenge that, everything now revolves around the children, work, and other responsibilities. And I've seen it. I've seen it have an impact on my weight. Say, for example, I try and do physical activity almost every other day, but I think there's a balance between, yes, you can do the physical activity, but you also need to be in a space where you're just not also just piling up, and probably having, in as much as you have your physical activity, probably there's comfort food at some point, or you're not watching your diet. And diet does, form a very big part of your, of your physical health and physical well-being. So maybe Ferdinand, let's just as we're drawing to probably the point where we'll take a few more questions from the audience, is what role do partners, family, and friends play in supporting a father's mental health? What role do you see them playing?
I see them playing a very critical role because they're the first people that we can talk to in case we are facing challenges that are beyond our hands. And yeah, I think that the first people that we can always open up to. So for me, I think they play a very critical role in our lives.
Okay. Do you have any examples of how that has been?
Like more so, let's say our partners. Let's say you are facing some challenges either in work, or the first person that you'll open up to is usually your partner. So they play a very critical role in just encouraging us and giving us the hope that tomorrow will be much better than today.
Okay, yeah. Great. How about Andronic? What role have you seen, partners, friends, family playing in sort of supporting a father's mental health? Or what role can they play?
I think that definitely these are people that are close to us. Before I go to work, the person that is close to you is probably your wife and your children. Then after that, maybe neighbors, maybe a close cycle of friends. Yes. So in case of anything happening to you, they are the first people to feel the pinch, yes. Whether it's in the positive or the negative sense. So I think, let me use, for example, in the context of a family. Yeah. If I can see it, let's say my own dad, the people who used to stress him a lot are his children. Yes. because I come from quite a large family. So if as a father you leave, for example, you say, okay, so I'm going to work, but at least the children are here. I need you guys to do A, B, C, D, and D to help in the house or maybe in the farm. Yes. As a man, you go to work, you come back in the evening, the children went to play, and they have not done the little chores at home. So day one, you write it off. Day two, you write it off. By the time it gets to 1 week and your kids are not doing some basic stuff in the house, definitely something in you is going to change, right? Yeah. So I think children can contribute to the mental well-being or downward trend of a man's life. And I think now, for me also, of course, having grown a bit older, I realized that as a son to this man, I have a role to play in his well-being. So when he wants something to be done, I have to listen. I have to support him as a father. You know what? You're doing this part. we have to help you also accomplish this part, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's the same to a spouse, because this is the first person. This is the person, whether you win or lose, this is a person who is going to suffer with you or enjoy with you.
Yes.
So, and as it said, the source of your pleasure could be the same source of your suffering.
Yeah.
So the spouse, family, kids could be the source of pleasure or the source of suffering.
Yeah.
If a spouse is dismissive, and I think this is the common thing that men face, um, that as we are talking about the traditional perception on a man, that you're supposed to be stoic. You know,
Yeah.
even if you go through difficult times, you don't really have much liberty to share and express, you know what you did it takes a wise spouse to acknowledge that and validate that and say, I hear you, and still able to respect this man. But more often at the clinics, at the hostels, men will say that they are not open to share their innermost struggles and fears to their spouse. Why? Because of being judged. One man said that when he shares a critical struggle, for example, a project failed and he's feeling really down, sharing with the wife will say something like, be like a man, be like so and so. He failed, but he still succeeded. You know, why can't you be like so and so? He's your age, but he's already changing 3 cars. He has 3 cars. What do you have? You know, such things which are dismissive to a man's fears. So if that happens, then this man, next time he goes through a difficult situation, is not going to share with you. Is probably not going to share with anyone. What is going to happen? He's going to hold it within, and he's going to express his frustrations in a different way. So definitely, as a family, friends, a very critical role to play. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. I think for
Thank
me,
you. Thank you,
I'll
sir.
probably share. Yeah, I'll probably share a personal experience. I mean, my late parents were very close to our children, and they did. My mother used to insist a lot of times that every Friday she would take the kids, both from myself and my sister, and she would always say, "You know what? Have some time to yourselves. This is the time for you and your wife to do something." And a lot of times, yes, either would do something together or would do something separately. I would hang out with my friends, she would hang out and go. And we had an opportunity to sort of, improve our own mental health, because the family, our parents did take away the children from us, and practically every Friday. And sometimes they actually would stay with them for weeks. And I think that alone played a lot of, a big impact in terms of how I felt my own personal mental health was affected. Because you can imagine if you don't have a breathing space. Of course, now it's navigating through a totally different space, having lost both of them. But I think when I look back and I say that's something that families can do. Parents, take away your grandchildren and spend time with them. Give your children opportunities to sort of decompress and have some self-care time. Have time to if you want to go and you go to the barber shop and you want to do a massage after that, which is part of self-care, you do have the time to do that, rather than running home to because you have to take care of certain responsibilities. Or if say, for example, a child is falling sick, someone else can come in and support you. And I've seen that practically, where people, even our parents, used to even take the children to hospital on our behalf sometimes when you're really stuck at work and you can't get time off. So I think that does help you sort of focus. You may be in the middle of a very critical project, and you need to sort of succeed in that. And if you don't have the support that comes from the family, I think that's really something that's very important. The other thing, in terms of friends, I think the friends that you keep is also very important. Friends who understand where you are in terms of your what you're going through. Are you, say for example, it was very stressful last year, towards the end of last year before my daughter went into Form 1, and having had a close friend who also was experiencing the same, and would exchange notes and, say, okay, this is what is happening. I'm having trouble with choice of school. What are your thoughts? What is the feeling? I'm having anxieties about these children getting into this school. And I think I have a close friend who were able to discuss that and, say, what are the things that we are feeling? And sometimes you don't have people, and men, I think, really need to be encouraged to talk and actually say, yes, if this child goes to this school, this is my challenge. This is what I'm feeling. These are my fears. And, sort of having that conversation made me validate that some of these fears were not unfounded, because sometimes you have the fears. If your boy is also having the same type of fears, then you say, okay, at least we're not crazy. At least there's something that's going on. So I want to just check with the technical team if there's any questions that are coming through. If there's any questions that are coming through. But as those questions are coming through, I think, Doc, you had talked about the coping mechanisms where people, I think, is it every Friday or every, the nyama choma booze culture? Is that what people are doing to cope, or what exactly are men doing to cope with the stresses that are coming up as their fathers, as them being fathers and navigating fatherhood?
Yeah, I think this is usually I'm so passionate about the mental health of men.
Yes.
Because I saw my own dad from becoming a very successful person to just draining and going and getting lost because of a mental breakdown. And I think, reflecting back, it's because nobody was genuinely there to walk with him, and the people who were close to him were misleading, right? And so what happened is he was lost into alcoholism and so on. Later, we helped him recover, but that helps me to see what happens in the lives of men a bit different. Let's take, for example, on nice Friday night, let's say about end month, you realize that majority of the customers there are not ladies. Though most of the people in the clubs are ladies, but they're not the customers. It is the men who are paying. It is the men who are paying for this. It's the men who are paying for these women to give them entertainment. The ladies are there to give entertainment to this man whose week has been company. Yes, the man's week has been tough, ups and downs and so on, and probably he can't go home, because home he cannot share the frustrations that he's gone through. So where does he go? To the club. One lady was actually sharing with me that herself, she goes to the club not really to drink, but to give company to this men. She was very open and said many men who are in the clubs are actually married and they come to the club because they can't talk to their wives. They can't have a conversation with their wives. They come to the club, they find this woman who they have never met, both are strangers, but because of the easiness of alcohol, he is able to open up to this woman. And this woman, because also is there for business, she's able to give him a listening ear and an assurance and a few encouragements here and there. And definitely next Friday, as a man, what am I going to do? I'll be back to so within no time, you realize what started as a way to offload your mental pressure eventually becomes a habit, and then after habit it becomes an addiction. Yes. Then the alcohol that you are taking, maybe one bottle, now you are chafuaring meza, and by the time you leave, maybe a whole crate is been spent. And in no time, you are not only stressed or struggling with depression, but also you are dealing with alcohol addiction.
Yeah.
So you have added two monsters. And definitely those two might translate into underperformance at work. And then again, you draw away more from your family and so on. So it starts as a simple thing, but then the cascade down the line is quite heavy. So men's expression of mental health is quite different. Even researchers say that there is a push to address men's mental health in a different perspective from the ladies. You know, when a lady is stressed, she will feel assured by being loved, by being taken care of, by being provided. But when a man is stressed, maybe something is not working out. The man needs an assurance that he's still being trusted, he's still able to turn his life around, and he's still able to. They're able to do things, but I think most men will agree that the ego is around being able to do things, right? When the ability to do something, especially like provide, is stripped away from a man, there's a way the mental state of a man is challenged. So when a man is down mentally, there is the external expression of the unhealthy mental state, which will often show up in anger, irritability, maybe fights, aggression, right? Which might be mistaken as a personality, but maybe it's
Uh-huh.
an expression of what is happening inside. But what actually is happening on the inside that is not being shown is shame. A man is feeling ashamed of himself, that he's not able to do certain things. But outside, I am portraying a picture of strength, aggression, you know.
The bravado.
So yeah, yeah. So we need to understand that part. And then now, so what happens is that to be able to cope up with that, um, because I am feeling not able to, part of going to the club is not to calm down mental stress. I'm going to the club spending money to try actually and prove a point that I am still able to provide. It's still part of the coping mechanism. I'm going there to spoil people, to cover up on my insufficiencies that I'm still able to provide. And I'm still able to draw many people to myself. It's an unhealthy coping mechanism because it's going to take your finances away and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So spending money, alcohol and other drug use, and probably a bit of overeating, but commonly in men, spending a lot of money and alcohol and substance use is such a common uh, unhealthy coping mechanism among men, which includes also attracting women in your as many women in your life. It's also unhealthy. Now, overeating and obesity might come as a consequence of this alcohol and the related, they might go together, but that is more common among women, managing mental health issues by overeating and sleeping too much. So those are unhealthy coping mechanisms. They are expensive, they are unhealthy, they are unsustainable.
Yeah.
Yes. So therefore it calls for men to adapt systems. I always vouch for systems. It is not an event that this month I am going to the gym. No, it
Yeah.
should be a system, that it's a lifestyle, that this is how my life is going to be, because I believe challenges do not disappear. They are there with us every day. So therefore we just need a system. So I believe that as research shows us that there are healthy coping mechanisms that are healthy, sustainable, and cheap, right? So, for example, I mentioned earlier something like incorporating physical exercise in your schedule. Physical exercise has a tremendous benefit in a person's body, not just men only, both men and women, but more so in men. If
Yeah.
you can do your jogging, aerobics, or gym consistently, that is going to have a long-term benefit in your life. And the second thing is setting time. to seek help. So you can find help in church or wherever your religious organization is. So finding time to go and talk to your pastor at personal level. You can find time to talk with a friend, not friends, a friend who you trust that these things you are talking about will not go outside. Um, Also, setting time to go and get debriefs from a professional psychologist. This is different from a pastor, different from a friend. It is a professional psychologist. And especially people who are working in C-suits, the managers, I think, oh, sorry, maybe you fall in that category. You know,
Yes.
you have all and everything going on such that you don't have, including weekends, you are working, you're always on the phone organizing how the company is going to run. So it's about setting system, not when. You don't wait for you to have a mental breakdown for you to go and see the psychologist. You put it in your calendar that every 2 weeks I'm going to have a conversation with my pastor or my religious leader. Every 2 or 3 months, I'm going to see the psychologist to debrief how I have to be at the gym. It's a system of personal lifestyle. And also, I think also setting a clear communication and that your family understands, your spouse understands, and your children also understand that, you know what, guys, I have a busy schedule, but you have to allow me to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, because maybe that time that you need to go to the gym is a time your kids need you to play with them, right?
Yeah.
So you have to set that communication also with your family. Yeah.
Good. So let's sort of move on. I've not seen any questions so far, which begs to me, and part of having this conversation really as men and driving it as men is, and I've always said, um, and we've talked about it also at the beginning. As men, we really struggle to want to talk about our mental well-being, and I don't know how we package it so that we can encourage more men to speak and say, you know what, these are the challenges that we're facing. Um, how do we create safe spaces for men to talk? Because sometimes I find men don't want to speak. But I play golf a lot, and one of the things that I always say is one of the places apart from playing, and every morning there's a group of guys who I tend to meet, guys coming from the gym, I'm coming from golf, and we meet at the changing room, and there's always conversation, and I look forward to that conversation. Sometimes we talk about the challenges in life, sometimes we talk about the politics, sometimes we talk about different things, and I find that a very important time for me every day. And it's almost synchronized. These guys will come from the gym at this time, I'll come from the course at this time, and then we'll talk about these things. And sometimes we're talking about children, we're talking about health, we're talking about different things. And I just wish that we could have sort of such types of forum where men can actually express what it is that they feel and speak without fear. And a lot of times, some of the guys we talk to, we may not even know each other's names that much, or maybe the guy knows your name, you don't know his name, but at least it gives an opportunity for us to sort of debrief. And if it's at the end of a day, but having that common activity sort of does help. So, Ferdinand, as we're rounding up, and I think we cannot have a conversation on EQ Lunch and Learn without talking about emotional intelligence. And I think maybe let's look at it. What advice do you have for other men who are struggling to figure out, fatherhood? How can they use emotional intelligence to play a role in dealing with that? Ferdinand.
Thank you so much. So for me, I think as new fathers of the block, as we had already mentioned earlier, it is something new, and we are all on the process of learning one another. So how we use emotional intelligence is just like knowing how we speak to our partners. Like what kind of sentiments do we give to our partners? Like for instance, you might make a very insensitive comment not knowing how your partner might feel. For example, you might tell your wife like, I no longer enjoy my life the way I used to do it now that the baby is here. You know that for you, you might feel like you're making a point just to justify that you don't have your space. But according to her, it is a very insensitive comment. So using how we talk or how we express our emotions to our partners is very important in addressing emotional intelligence in fatherhood.
Yes, Doc, your thoughts around emotional intelligence and the space and how people who are struggling to figure out fatherhood, how can that play a role in helping them deal with it?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, let me accept that I'm not an expert in emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Yes. But I have been doing a lot of reading and research around emotional intelligence for my own good. And I think what really stood out on what the components of emotional intelligence are, I think on self-awareness, just understanding who you are, understanding your triggers, understanding your strengths and limitations, um, understanding what Ferdinand has said about communication style, and just fully understanding yourself to some extent, and then how now translating that into the context of how you as an individual, the way you are, affects the people around you. And I think when we take time to really understand ourselves, it really helps with ourselves and the people around us. More often, we might push for change in things that are external, but we are not looking inside. I think emotional intelligence helps us to look inside, to really go to the depth of our hearts and unearth the the good and the ugly sides of ourselves. And then once you get to see yourself in that perspective at a deeper level, then you know how you can now effectively express yourself to the people around you. And in this case, as a man, I think I always see that everybody wants to experience the best version of a man. Very few people want to deal with a man who is in the worst.
Yes.
Very few people want to deal with a man who is in the worst. Everybody wants to see and be around a man who is at their best. So I think when, as a man, we get back into our inner selves and unearth and discover our innermost abilities and here and there, then we know how we express to ourselves, to our children, spouse, and so on. I think that is an awakening point. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think when we talk about emotional intelligence, there are maybe the key competencies around or core competencies around emotional intelligence of self-awareness, which you've talked about, which really, as you're trying to figure out fatherhood, speaking to your emotions and understanding how you feel, and that guiding you on how you, parent, how you interact with others. I think that's something that's very important. How you manage yourself. So we've talked about, self-care. We've talked about what are the things that you can do to sort of keep yourself sane even as you navigate through that. I think that's something that's very important. Then social awareness, sort of understanding now that you're a father, there's certain things that you will not do. And I think it's very interesting. If I think about my time and the time that I started, when I, became a father, uh, interestingly, a few of my friends were also getting to become fathers around the same time. So it did help. And I think we are all socially aware of what are the changes that are happening in each of our lives. And we were able to, this is not the time now that you want to look for all of us on Friday, or you want to look for all of us on a certain date, or let's do Naivasha, let's do something else. Because now you understand and you're aware that with the responsibilities that have come, life is not going to be the same for you forever. In fact, I think when you talk about parenting, it's forever, because you're a parent until you drop dead. You don't stop being a parent even if your children are adults. So I think that's something that's very important. Then the fourth aspect is relationship management, and how you relate with your spouse, how you relate with others. I think is a very key component on emotional intelligence, and also now as you're navigating the world as a father, how you even relate to your children, I think is something that's also important. How you relate to your spouse and the impact that it does have when you're managing that relation to your children and those around you. So I think emotional intelligence does then play a very key role when we're navigating fatherhood. So I'm getting to the point where we can now be taking some parting shots. I'm still looking to see if there's any questions that are coming up, and if we don't have any questions, I'll also try to put that on my socials to see if there's any other question that comes in. Not yet so far, but let's get the parting shots from you gentlemen. Ferdinand, do you have any final advice for individuals, fathers out there, or those who are looking to get into fatherhood? Any final advice?
Yeah, I think for me, my advice will be like men should deviate from being alpha male, because when you speak up, that's where you get solutions. And also from research, you can see that most men are dying out of depression as compared to women, because women are more talkers because they talk everywhere. When they go to the market, they talk. When they go to the offices, they talk. So at least the stress levels that they have, they're able to share within among themselves, and that's why you see that most men are dying as compared to women. So it's just meant to deviate from being alpha male and just accepting it within, and yeah, it will be a safe space for all of us.
Okay, great. Doc, what are your parting words and the final advice to those who are seeking to be fathers like yourself?
Yeah, I think
advice to self.
Yes, I think that one of the things that I always say is that I think being a man is wonderful. I can never regret that I was born a man. I think so. It's a wonderful thing to be a man, and therefore we should be proud to take up the responsibility of a man fully and joyfully, though it is full of its challenges. But I think it's the challenges that even help us to be refined and to become even better men, to become better fathers. Having said that, generally, the women have more mental health issues than men. It's just that the few that men suffer with are severe. Mm-hmm. And it's because of how the man has been nurtured up traditionally of being stoic, not sharing, putting up that straight up face and facing the things within. But in no time, you realize it's weighing you down. Before you realized, suicide comes in and a man is lost. And apart from suicide, the mental health of men is trickling down to the other things we mentioned: addiction. Mental health is starting as a mental health, but it will lead to overweight. And then you start struggling with diabetes, hypertension, heart attacks, and many other issues. So we look at mental health not just as what is happening up here only, but this is going to affect the rest of our functionalities in the rest of the body. So as men, let's talk. But my suggestion about encouraging men to talk is that let us not talk in public. Do not go and post your issues on social media. Do not go and stand in front of the church and say you're going through a time. My suggestion of men opening up is find one or two people, be it your friend, be it your pastor, be it a professional. And that is a person that you're going to be consistently opening up. Because opening up in public, we will be judged. The judgment is still there. Yeah, unfortunately, the judgment is still there. So, yes, let's open up, but to a specific person who is going to help us navigate this journey. That one, I think I will highly suggest that. Otherwise, thank you so much for having me here. I've learned a lot from the two gentlemen, and I look forward to more engagements in this, since this is something I'm very passionate about. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks. I think that being said by our very two esteemed guests, Ferdinand and Dr. Andronik, I think I can also just speak about a few takeaways that I've gotten from it. And I think the first takeaway that I think is very important, and a lot of us don't talk about it, and it sort of is what you've lastly said, Dr. Andronik, is the issue about seeking professional help. I think that is extremely important. Therapy is available. Therapy can be done online. I think a lot of times men feel that I'm gonna seem weak if I'm seen going into the psychologist's office, or if I speak that I am in therapy. But there are many platforms that you can be able to access, even online, and speak about your issues. I think for me, I'm very keen around professional help, because there's an issue about advice versus professional help. I think as we're navigating through the challenges that we're facing as fathers, it's important that we're able to seek professional help, and that will really help you, become a better father, and coupled with that, be more aware about your emotions and how to deal with those emotions. And of course, looking forward to the day that we can have father support groups. I know there's a lot of talk about mental health, men's conference type of discussions, but I think the men's conference conversations should really focus on how can we become better fathers, and how can we be able to navigate that. Because I think there's pressure, yes, to be the better father, but also how can you remain sane as you're being that better father that you need to be. Speak, and speaking for me, not just about the issues, because the issues, like you're saying, probably you get judged, but speak. I always find it important to, even if you're having, say, things that you need to do for your children and you're at work, do not shy off from talking about that. Do not shy off from saying that, you know what, I need to go to school, or my child is having these challenges. Please, I need some time off to go and address them. So that's something that I feel is important, and a takeaway from this conversation. Self-care is something that's very big that we need to do. I think, Doc, you talked about the importance of physical activity and to our mental health, and that, of course, being in the right frame of mental health does support us as fathers to our children. So I think that's something that pick a sport. I've challenged people. I think I did an article recently within our organization around mental health. I think what I talked about is that we need to focus on our physical health, seek professional help, which is really what we're talking about, and also as men, really just get checked mental in terms of your physical health. It's very important, because sometimes your physical health is having a challenge because of what you're going through emotionally. But if you don't check, you will know. I know there's a lot of practice in Kenya where people feel that you don't need to check on your on your physical health by doing medical checkups. It's something that's very important. I can see there's a comment from Sophia Nichols, which is very good. So thanks for these words. I believe it's a pity more men don't open up in public more, as there are many young men who would benefit from seeing that vulnerability is weak. So there's strength in vulnerability, especially male Black leaders. And I think, like you said, it's important as men for us to be able to speak. And if I'm not speaking and saying that I have challenges, then people who look up to me will not understand that. They'll feel that when they face challenges, that it's foreign, and there's a problem with them. So I think that's and another key takeaway that I've gotten from you, Doc, is around the issue of what are the coping mechanisms that we need to be aware of as men. We're trying to spend money, we get into alcohol, we get into drug abuse, we just try and please everyone, but under it, what we're trying to hide is the shame of the things that we're trying to deal with. So I think seek professional help so that you can be able to deal with that, and so that can be a right channel where you can be able to sort of deal with your issues, rather than getting onto that roller coaster that it starts off with alcohol addiction, the brokenness that can come because you're now spending money to please others, and it's a slippery slope. So thank you, Dr. Andonik and Ferdinand, for your time and your participation in today's Lunch and Learn. Basically, I think it's been a really awesome conversation, and I know the conversation is going to be live, and I would encourage many people we share it to as many men as possible so that they can be able to benefit from this conversation. And there you have it, ladies and gents. It's essential for you to invest in yourself, not just as far as your technical skills are concerned, but these soft skills, like what we've been talking about today. So these soft skills can actually drive your bottom line results. And so bye for now and have a lovely day. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good one as well.
Yeah.